Shift Sector, we're a motorsports racing organization. We started in 2011. Jason and I actually met street racing like 10 years ago.
Growing up, I was always into cars. I never thought I would do it for a living. You know, as you get older, I was still street racing, and that's actually how I met Ryan. We met on the streets, street racing. Really, Ryan and I were looking for a way to do what we love to do, which is race, but do it without getting busted by the cops.
Instead of, meeting up at 4 a.m. on abandoned streets with a bunch of high-end exotic car owners, we said, hey, we got guys with sick cars that want to race. Let's find a better way to do this that's different than the typical drag strip.
When we first did it, we were basically inviting our friends. Like, hey guys, instead of racing on the streets, let's rent this track out and let's go street race each other, right? And then our friends told their friends, and like by the time the event came around, we went from inviting like 20 or 25 car buddies, and it was like 80 cars.
Originally, we rented out a big racetrack and just used the front straightaway to roll race. And then we said, okay, well we need something longer, so what is somewhere that we could have a long enough stretch of tarmac that we could do this? And instantly we thought of airports. We found some middle of nowhere airport that let us do a first event, and then we realized we could, build that and do something with that. Then we found Coalinga, which was a great location because it's right between LA and San Francisco. Both have big car communities. We started doing events in Coalinga in 2012 and expanded to other states.
So it just turned into this thing where we're like, if we're gonna do it, let's make it legit. But it wasn't about making money, it was about going out there and having a lot of fun with our friends. And it just it grew organically on its own. People told other people, dude, man, these guys do this sick shit, it's these long ass street, like drag racing, and people just started signing up, like out of nowhere. And so it just grew from there.
Coalinga has been since 2012, so this will be our 6th year. This is kind of our home base, OG location that kind of started it.
When we first started this, it was very grassroots. Everybody that came out here were just average street racers. Nobody had like the craziest car. You basically had street cars with mods, and they would come out here and get to race their buddies and race other people.
We've gotten some of the cars that we never thought we would see being compared. That's the reason we did all this, was you get, modified GTRs and Lamborghinis and, Ferraris and all these crazy builds that everyone thinks is fast, and now you get to line them up and actually see what happens. And what's always been so surprising is how cool everyone is, some people have hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars into these cars, and our experience with most of the guys that come out and race with us, there's very little ego. They just want to come out, have a good time. Some are obviously more competitive than others and trying to set world records and break world records, which happens a lot too. But even still, most of the guys get it and they're out here, and it's a pretty new genre of racing. It got to a point where cars were getting so fast now in the half mile that none of those guys want to do the mile because they're going so fast in half the distance that these guys who are going 200, 210, 220 in the half mile, they don't want to risk their lives or blowing stuff up, sitting pinned at red line for another, 10, 20 seconds. We've definitely seen a shift with a lot of motorsports guys moving away from the standing mile stuff and into the half mile stuff because the trajectory is a lot more visceral because you're doing half the distance. So if you're doing those kinds of speeds in half the distance, you're going a hell of a lot faster.
This has become a true form of racing now. It's as legitimate as a quarter-mile drag strip. Now there are world records for half-mile racing. People spend millions of dollars to build a world record half-mile competitor. For me, it's exciting, but more from a passionate level, because I love cars and I get to meet these drivers, and they come out here with like a GTR and it goes like 160 miles per hour, and like a year later they're going like 220. And to be able to see that kind of growth in their cars and to see these guys grow as drivers, that's what I'm really drawn to.
So it's cool to kind of see how the sport itself has brought in, everyone from your average Joe that just wrenches on his Mustang, it's his only car, to, wealthy dude who, lives in LA or in the Bay Area and has nowhere to, let his McLaren or Ferrari or Lamborghini, stretch its legs, to full-blown race teams, spending all their time to break world records.
The thing for Ryan and I is that our approach from the very beginning, everywhere we do an event, we approach the community and we wanted to be a part of the community. Coalinga was our second runway event that we did in 2012. And ever since then, we've consistently, all these food vendors are all locals. We reach out to the local food vendors, all of our, fire, ambulance, the trash cans, the street sweeper, the grandstands, they're all local companies that when we come into town, they all benefit from it. For Ryan and I, our approach is long-term, and we feel like that's the best way to have that, to establish that relationship.
I myself have always been an advocate of, cannabis use and medicinal and recreational. People are going to do it anyways, so it's always like, if you're going to do something, regulate it, tax it, have have guidelines with it and just watch it and have it grow just like any other business.
When people talk about marijuana and whether it should be legal or not, what you tend to hear is guys who smoke weed want it to be legal, and then people who don't smoke weed don't want it to be legal. But it's actually not like that. I don't smoke weed, but I think it's great from all angles, from a financial perspective for the country and the states, and honestly for the people that smoke weed. Now I feel like there's a way to like moderate what's out there and to educate people.
Coalinga is a small community. There's only 16,000 people, and just like you guys saw an opportunity to put something up here, it's the same reason we came here. We try to partner and focus with small communities to bring something there that not only is good for the city, good for the community, but good for us as well as a partnership. Like aligning ourselves with cannabis, I think is great, and there's certain industries that have approached us about aligning together that we haven't done, but I think cannabis is great, and again, I just think, why wouldn't you?
My first thought was it's about time, because I feel like it goes hand in hand with what we do. The lifestyle that racing and our types of racers are into, legalized cannabis is, I feel like, a part of it.